of unreleased documents related to Jeffrey. And she is saying more files are coming, but she's providing no timeline about when these documents could be made public, weeks after the hype of blah, blah, blah. So she said yesterday that Cash is going to give me a deadline on when he can go through the documents to protect, of course, the victims of the carnal transportation. And the FBI will, quote, get out as much as we can, as fast as we can, but not offered a timeline. She also spoke to Shaun Hannity, saying she has received this truckload of documents from FBI's Southern District of New York field office. She's saying the DOJ is going through the documents as fast as they can, and they are going to come out. Although she did not say when, and she added she wants a full report on why the documents allegedly sat at the FBI's New York field office. A reporter asked the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, this week about Bondi's claim she received a truckload, questioning when they were released. And Leavitt says she does not have a timeline and referred the report to the Department of Justice. So that is the latest on that one. Is it more musical chairs?
First of all, it's hyperbole. They don't literally have a truck full of paper. Like, and here's how you can protect the victims. We already have over $460 million in settled lawsuits between Deutsche Bank and Prince Andrew and Leon Black and obviously JP Morgan Chase of payments to victims. So why are you protecting the Johns? You can already figure out, like Jess Staley from Barclays was a John, because he has emails with Jeffrey talking about what they did and dressing them up in little uniforms and stuff, all that crap. There are a lot of things like that where, like, you already know who the customers are because it's in the court documents, not a secret or anything. These aren't redacted. They are available online and have been for years. There was a huge dump January 3rd of 2023, or it's just no reaction. You have these names, and what happened was, or excuse me, 2024, whatever, January 3rd, they meaning the media, they come out with these stupid, gossipy celebrity headlines, Cameron Diaz, Leonardo DiCaprio, whatever. And then you read it and it's just Stephen Hawkins or something. They throw out knowable, recognizable celebrity type names, and then it's a nothing burger. It's just the context was, I was asked, have any of these names been in such parties? No. Have you ever seen any of these people come on the property? No. Have you ever seen any of these people at any of the dinners? No. Okay. So their names in the document, in a way that completely exonerates them. And what the media doesn't do is tell you whose names are in the document who are not exonerated. All these hedge fund managers, Glenn Dubin, that's a billionaire. That should be a big deal. You got a billionaire R-wording little kids. Nobody cares. And him and his wife and his daughter are meeting with Bill Gates, another multi-billionaire who's a cheater and all that too. That ought to be a big deal, but it's not, because the public just are drama farming and they just want celebrities. They want it to be Tom Hanks or Justin Bieber or whatever. And they don't care that, like, it's just not entertaining enough for it to be boring hedge fund managers and bankers and brokerage firm guy. But that's what it is. That's who's on this list mostly. Now, there are some politicians. I mean, Clinton, that's a big deal. Ehud Barak, that's a prime minister. That's a big deal. Obviously, Prince Andrew. And they know those names. But the bulk of it, and really the donor class that runs the world, aren't very exciting or famous, but very powerful. And that is who he targeted, was the donor class. And there's no way those names are ever coming out from the government. because they pay the government. I'm surprised they even arrested them at all. Of course, Burnell and Jeffrey end up swinging from a bedsheet, and Maxwell, that trial was such a farce. Like, they wouldn't allow Sergeant Dawson's testimony about the box of recordings. They just kept it out. It was a total whitewash. Our government is not going to give you a client list. I wish they would. I think Bondi and them, some of them, they might be naive enough to think that that they are able to do this. That 45-day window on the executive orders on JFK, RFK, and MLK has already passed. And you didn't get a single piece of paper, much less a truckload. You're not going to get anything. It's all these trust the plan types. They're like, any moment now. It's on her desk. It's truckloads, but it fit on her desk. It fits in a binder. Now it fits in, a truck. If they release anything, this is what it'll be. It'll be the same January 3rd document dump, which is thousands of pages. But that document dump was itself redundant information that we already had. Because I read through the whole thing thinking, okay, they're saying they had like 77 more names than what I had. So I'm like, who's the missing people? And they did not have 77 names that I didn't have. They had 77 different new names, but every single one of them, the context was just a name that's in the document. Oh, they flew on a plane. Big deal. Like, that's not, we're looking for the ones that engaged in the activity, either white collar crime with Jeffrey or, with the kitty fiddling. That's not, oh, he knew this. He had a picture with this person. That doesn't matter. Like, they knew way more people than who were involved in their business. Everybody does, obviously. And not everyone they targeted took the bait. And you got to be really clear when you're going to make an accusation as big as the R word. You can't just say, well, they're in the black book, so guilty. That's not enough. It's a data point. It's more than nothing, but that is not enough to go on. Oh, they're in the black. They flew on a plane. Okay, that's a little bit stronger. Where did they go? Okay, and I don't know. I don't expect to get any more advancement on that issue. I think it's dead. I think it's been Alex Jones'd to the point where I can wave around the client lists and people are like, where's the client list? And I'm sitting there right here. It's right here. I'll read it to you right now. And they're just, they need the guy on TV to tell them the exact same thing. Even though I can tell you why and where each name I have in these books. Like, here's the file. Here's where it mentioned what they're doing, when they did it, what girl they did it to, all that. It doesn't matter. In fact, on your shows, we've gone over some of it. We had like probably, I don't know, 12 hours of worth of stuff, probably going over the people that were purchasing women. And I don't know. I don't know how to get people to listen. Like, this case I'm talking about with the Lees, zero interest, other than the Hunter connection might get some interest. But same thing with Robert Miller, to a degree, Peter Nygaard. And then both those cases, it was underage, just like Epstein. Nobody cares unless they care about P. Diddy, but not because of natural empathy or principle that, what he did was wrong. It's because he's a celebrity. And that bothers me deeply. Why do you only care if it's a celebrity? It doesn't matter who it was. Robert Miller is a billionaire. He was the richest man of Quebec, and he ruined the lives of hundreds of girls that he had threesomes with, high school girls. Okay. He messed up a lot of families. They don't care. Okay. Well, I do, but you can't get attention on these stories unless there is a celebrity. And even with the Jeffrey story, if you didn't have Clinton and Prince Andrew, or possibly Trump because of the Acosta connection, there's a tacit connection, it wouldn't be a story. No one would care. That's sad.
You got a few questions coming about this. So Emma wants to know, I know no one affiliated with Epstein will ever be prosecuted. Do you think this will continue? And are they going to shut down this part of intelligence?
They've been prosecuted, though. I mean, he got prosecuted, Maxwell got prosecuted, and Jean-Luc Brunel got prosecuted. The top 3 people of that operation all did go to prison. And then other people in the operation they had settlements in the tens of millions of dollars a piece. So they weren't prosecuted and thrown in prison like they ought to be, but they had to pay tens of millions of dollars to make it go away. Here's your hush money, like make it go away. So that happened. Leon Black had to pay out the nose. Andrew had to pay out the nose. And a lot of these executive stuff is still ongoing, but they're just going to pay their way out of it. And their name won't be
What about
public.
Wexner? How did Wexner get out of it?
Wexner, well, he works for Israeli intelligence. They're not going to touch him. Wexner's involved with the other Jeffrey case from Abercrombie and Finch. We went over that too with the homosexual ring they were doing, forcing young men to have enemas and shaving all the hair off their body. Man, that was Wexner too. He put him in power. He knew what was going on. And these little escapades aren't just for their jollies. It was compromise. And Les Wexner and the Wexner Foundation helps funnel money to Zionist organizations and even politicians. So they look at the Abigail Wexner, Les and Abigail Wexner Foundation, and all the little LLC cutouts they've made, and the money that's going around is, hop, skip, and a jump away. You've got the ADL, the SPLC, Reporting, Carbine, and a bunch of companies in Israel. They're moving money around into political coffers. He is a financial instrument, but because he owns these modeling agencies, Victoria's Secret, LL Brands, Abercrombie, all that, you can imagine that, look, this crap is going on at every single one of those branches. But it's a perfect front to get young women and men, in case of Abercrombie, roped into these businesses. And some modeling agencies, many of them, in fact, are very shady. MC2 from Burnell, same thing. Used to be called Karen Models when it started in Tel Aviv before it went to Paris. Then it comes over to the United States. They're housing the women and properties from Jeffrey's brother, Mark, and usually living adjacent to, I'm being very careful with my language, the Wexner gifted home. Okay. Ari Ben Menashe said Maxwell was already part of it. So was her father. She brought him into the business being Israeli intelligence. That was a honey trap operation. And they targeted the donor class and science and technology to steal trade secrets for the Israeli state. And they were robbing the Americans blind. They have so many people compromised. I mean, you had the highest target. Bill Clinton was president. William Burns was the head of the CIA. It doesn't get any better than that. If you're blackmailing a country, you have the head of the intelligence and the head of the executive. It doesn't get much better than that. And then we had 3 speakers of the House in a row who were sexually compromised. Dennis Hastert with little boys. So that's the level of depravity we're at. We just don't have honest people in the government. The Ron Pauls and Thomas Masseys are super rare. A lot of these people have no self-control, especially around young women. And, they're willing to sacrifice whatever to get it. And I was just like, man, just go to Vegas, Thailand, whatever. If that's your thing, it's something you have to do, then at least do it legally so you don't get blackmailed. Well, although you could still blackmail somebody because the activity itself, even when it is legal, is very frowned upon. But, come on. If somebody approaches you at let's say a UN party, and they look like a teenager, they probably are. Okay. If you're 60-something years old and their 10 is hitting on you, it's a honey trap. You're not charming. You're not funny. You're getting played.
A few people are asking, where can they get a hoodie with the list map printed on it, Ryan?
Well, Shaun has linked to the site. It's antineocon.com. And you can get this hat, you can get this hoodie, or you can get this as a t-shirt, depending on where you live, what the weather is. Maps are there, Biden, New Mexico, the Anthrax 9/11 timeline, and of course the Jeffrey map.
Link is in the live chat. I just put it in. And if you're watching on replay, it is in the description box below the video, as is Ryan's X. So keep your questions coming in, folks. Bailey wants to know, when is Maxwell being released? She got 20 years, Bailey. You do 85% in the feds. That was 2022. She's done 3 years of it. So do the maths. Probably got about 14, I'm guessing. About 14.
Yeah, and she, how old is she now? She's when she gets out, she won't have much time left. She's spending her birthday was on Christmas, so she gets a double Christmas birthday in jail.
Oh, Ryan, who are the names of the Danes on the list? Any Danes come to mind?
Well, you mean the ladies of the Knights? That's well, a lot of Kim, Park, and Lee.
On the Epstein list.
Oh, there's a lot of. There were over 200 women. So the worst of the bunch, I guess, would have been Sarah Kellen, because she was, an active recruiter and flew around with them. She got immunity on that first sweetheart deal, so can't do anything.
Is Larry Fink on any of the lists? Jen wants to know.
Diamond is Jamie Dimon is who threw Jess Staley under the bus. He's like, I didn't know him. I had no idea that all this money from this guy was. He's playing stupid. He absolutely knew. And the thing is with those guys too is, and you have to remember, you can go back. Well, all these shows are gone, I guess. But the second show Shaun and I did ever, I went over the financial crimes at Bear Stearns and liquid funding. These way they were moving around commercial paper and getting money from the New York Federal Reserve. These Epstein and Hoffman pulled Ponzi schemes at Tower Financial, but at Bear Stearns, Epstein was deep in with Ace Greenberg and those guys in absolute white collar crime. And then he's moving the money around in Jamie Dimon's banks. And of course, Jamie Dimon, there's always some plausible deniability where you can just be like, no, I just didn't know. I'm incredibly stupid, and I had no idea why a bunch of teenagers are getting $20,000 a month hush money payments. Like, yes, you did. You had to know. Like, well, our guy that handled that was Staley. It was not all Staley. I don't have sympathy for Jess Staley, but a little bit. I do. A little bit, because like he is getting blamed for all of it when that whole network was corrupt. And I'll tell you this, before Jeffrey and Maxie, there were many complaints about Bear Stearns from women that work there about the conditions and the sexual harassment and so on, way before them undressing in front of them and like that kind of culture. And I can't stand feminists during that either. I think that's too far the other direction, but there was a lot of chauvinistic, BS going on at these companies, and still is.
All right. So your next question then is...
That's his last photo, I believe. It's right after the 1953 trust.
Yeah. All right. So M13's beat me to my next question, and I'll give my input, because I did listen to the Joe Rogan Ian Carroll podcast, and M13 saying, Ryan, you got shouted out positively by Ian Carroll on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you saw that, but for the good info he got from you. So I was watching Ian Carroll. He said he's been doing it for 2 years. And it's like he's very charismatic. He's putting the videos together.
I love that. But like 2 years. I've been doing this for 25 years. But I get skipped over. But it's good for him.
He needs someone like you to fill the rest of the blanks in, because he's doing a good job. He's going in the right direction.
I think he's doing a great job for 2 years in. But it's like, I don't want to sound bitter, but I should be in that chair, because I know this way better than he does or ever will.
But you've been blacklisted too much to be in that chair, haven't you?
I didn't know he shouted me out. I think that's great, because most people don't. Most people will just steal the info, make a career, and off they go. They won't say anything. So good on him.
Have you
But I'm
communicated
a
with
little
Ian?
frustrated. Like I absolutely, if I'm asked to be on a show about some topic and I know someone that's done it, decades longer than me, you know what I'll do? I'll say, you ought to ask this person. But Rogan, big opportunity, just go, dude. But I think that's the best decision he can make is go on the show and mention my name. I didn't know that he did because I haven't had time to watch all the things. But I heard that they got into like the pyramids and aliens and a bunch of stuff. And I know Rogan's entertainment, but I'm like, okay, but I really don't want to mix Jeffrey stuff and 9/11 stuff with UFO and DMT and all that crap. It just makes it sound like kooky conspiracy stuff.
Have you spoke to Ian Carroll?
We DM on X sometimes.
Have you sent
I
him your
think
book?
I think he is a really good consumer rights activist too. He's like a younger Ralph Nader as far as just like drilling in. Look at how this company owns all these brands in the store. I see these videos all the time. And he plugged my Numek film too. He's one of the few people, him and Jake Shields, that will watch one of my movies and gain information and actually say where they got it from. Because a lot of people won't. They just be like, look what I did. Like, you didn't.
Have you sent him your book?
I haven't sent him the book, but he's watched all the films and stuff. He told me he watched Empire Unmasked like more than one time. I was like, wow, that's cool. So
Yeah, but he's quite a reader as well. I'd like to send him my Clinton, Bush, and CIA conspiracies if you can get an address out of him.
yeah, you should. I mean, he'll read it.
It would answer some of
Yeah,
the questions.
I'd give him a free book, whatever. I think that guy also got hold of Elon Musk. Elon was saying some stupid stuff about Israel, and he got on his case. So that's what we need. We need more of that. We also need a lot of people being over. Like I see people getting angry about this, and like you need to just work together, okay? But there's certain people you have to have a social media presence. Like Ian's allowed on TikTok, for example. A lot of us are not, and we can't have YouTube, we can't have Instagram, we can't have Facebook, we can't have it. So there's advantage. You can build your Twitter up a lot faster if you have all these on ramps from other platforms to link to your stuff as well, And so there are going to be people like my friend Jake Shields probably has more followers than like Elon Pape or something, or Gilad Osman, or these people who put in 30, 40 years on the Palestine conflict and they're not noticed. I go, well, that's not their fault. Like the audience is deciding the thing. They didn't like do that to you. But the censorship, they probably would have a bigger audience had they not been censored the whole time. Because almost all these people have been censored. I was really happy to see Norman Finkelstein get on Piers Morgan because the dues are owed. Norman Finkelstein has been put in decades of research and book writing and sacrifice and got, lost his job over it and slandered, defamed, censored, all that. And so I was really happy to see him get on Piers Morgan and get some recognition and credibility for all the work that he's done, but more so because he is one of the best people to deliver the message. Now, I think it's just fine too if someone like Dan Bilzerian gets on Piers Morgan and delivers the message the best that he can. But he will never be on the same level as Norman Finkelstein. And that's not a diss on Dan. Almost nobody is on the level of Norman Finkelstein. And that is the guy I want. Finkelstein. I want Gideon Livy. I want the Grant F. Smith. I want them, I want Grant F. Smith more than Dave Smith. And that's not a diss on Dave Smith, but Grant F. Smith is 100 times more knowledgeable than Dave Smith. I want Scott Horton talking about Ukraine. Okay. There's other people that get on the show and get to talk about Ukraine. I'm like, that's great, but this is the guy. Okay. And so it's very big of people though, like when they get this giant opportunity to be on a show like Rogan or whatever, to be a big enough man or woman to say, who knows this better than me? This person, because they're like hurting their own opportunity. You can't expect them to always do that. So you shouldn't say you suck for not doing it, but you're very big for doing it. But I know I do it. I always promote other people on these things. I just did right now. Like, these are the people you should talk to about these things. These other people are great and they're doing their best. And it's like, who all gets attention and stuff isn't up to them. But what I find super shitty is when someone just pilfers someone else's work to get on a show, takes all their talking points and stuff and acts like that's their thoughts, and it ain't. And I'm like, you're just plagiarizing other people. That's all. You're making a career off of plagiarism.
There's a lot of them out
And
there.
there's a lot of those.
On Ukraine, I just had Alex Kramer on. Have you done anything with him? He's brilliant.
Not yet. I mean, my usual go-tos on Ukraine on my show are Scott Ritter and Larry Johnson, sometimes Matthew Ho, and
Douglas McGregor.
I haven't had Doug on the show either, but he's great. I mean, that would be that's another one. Ray McGovern's a great one on Ukraine too. Depending, I mean, you're talking about the war.
Yeah.
He's good on Russian history, all that stuff. Like I think Ray McGovern is A+ on those things. But yeah, there's a lot of good people in Ukraine. But I would say on the case for just arguing the war, like how it got in, the provoked, and who wrote the book, it's Scott Hort. And I feel like and it's because Scott was writing the book, all these other guys did more shows, Judge Napolitano and da. So they're well known. But Scott can he can just spit out the facts and go through and argue, and he's great. And he was on Piers Morgan too. As much as I don't like Piers Morgan, he is one of the best of the like establishment class that'll actually have on guests that threaten the system. Because you will never see those type of guests on, three-letter networks. That's not happening. So props to Pierce.
Guess who I've got on Monday?
I don't know. What's
Gerald Celente.
Okay, yeah. I might be having him on too. We've been talking on Twitter.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, he's fun.
He gets hyper.
But these people too, the ones that have been around doing it 2 or 3 years or whatever, they're awesome. Like, it doesn't matter that some of them are young. Like, they couldn't do it 30 years ago. They weren't even alive. It just is what it is. But I don't have that much time left. So I'm like, look, if you want me to explain September 11th or Epstein or one of these things, like, it's not like a pissing match. Like, I am the person that is the most knowledgeable. So that's the only reason. Like, I want to go in because I think I can affect the most change. I don't care about the rest of it. Like, I know the Iraq war and the Syrian war really well too, but there are people who know it better, and I will always defer to them.
All right, you've got a few more questions. So Casey wants to know your thoughts on the Ford Modeling Agency.
What do you mean? Are you talking about the cars, or are you talking about Ford modeling?
Ford modeling, like as in, Victoria's Secrets and all that kind of thing.
Oh, well, kind of answered that already. Like, there is something wrong with that whole industry. A lot of entertainment too, like music, films, modeling, especially modeling. I think AI is going to take over modeling, but lingerie modeling and that kind, especially, and then things with children's models like Abercrombie. There's got to be a certain look and stuff, and you've got models as young as 12. If you're a parent, my oldest son gets recruited all the time. He's handsome, I guess, and that was in Japan, and it's it's not completely safe there either, but it's a little better than LA or and I have one of my parents in the fashion industry owned clothing stores, so I'd been around that business with models and stuff since I was a kid. And in fact, I even got the model just because I'm an identical twin and it's neat or whatever. It's not like I'm a model, but doing that thing when I was younger. So I've been around, I've been in fashion shows, I've seen that. I've gone to the expos and buyers club. I understand the industry. And I talk to a lot of models, and sometimes it's just fine. It's just a job. They enjoy it. They get some money for it. They get to meet a lot of other models. They get a lot of opportunities. They get a lot of perks. They get a lot of free stuff. They get to go to a lot of hotels for free and places for free and stuff that they couldn't afford otherwise. So that's like part of the payment. However, anytime you have an industry specifically of a bunch of beautiful people, especially young people, it's going to attract scumbags. And there will be the equivalent of a casting couch, whether it's for the music or the acting or the modeling or what, some related thing like that. TV, commercial, all of it too. And every age. They have no limits on, oh, well, not them. They will do it if they can do it. They don't care if your kid is 8 years old. In fact, I think they would care if they were 3 years old. Hollywood is disgusting. And I'll tell you, Corey Feldman, who, you can say he's weird or whatever, that's because he was abused. He told the truth. And no one listened. He gave name. He finally came out and he started naming names, and it didn't matter. And that's got to be the most devastating thing when they finally get the courage to come out and say, this person at these soda pop parties did this to me. I just woke up with my nuts in his mouth, whatever. And you tell the world, and there's no consequence.